concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
Oh yeah, we're living that gap. Did y'all miss this video? Every so often I hit something good. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Get in there. Oh, well, not quite. Not quite. Not quite. He didn't. He didn't. Oh, Joshua. Oh, Joshua. My goodness. That was not actually the video I meant to put up. I meant to put a different flight video up. That was my 3 packs a day. I usually put up unreleased flight videos. But okay, sure. At least it was a good one. At least it was a good one. House FPV wants to know if I have a video on how to do those pops in the intro vid. The truth is, House FPV, you flatten out, you punch the throttle, and then you pop forward, and you just kind of got to figure out the angle to punch flat upwards, so when you pop down, you're not drifting forward or back. You can look, if you go to my 3 packs a day playlist, I'm pretty sure this one has already come out. If you go to my 3 packs a day playlist on my channel, you can see the stick overlay. I'm 99% sure I have a stick. I guess I'm not 100% sure I have a stick overlay on that one. On some of my quads, I don't have a black box, but the gist of it is flatten out, punch the throttle to go straight up. When you're going straight up, lower the throttle and look down. I think it's just that simple. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. I'm Joshua Bardwell. You probably knew that already. And it is Monday. It's Monday night. It's 8 p.m. and we are doing the Q&A live stream. You're going to ask some questions. I'm going to answer your questions. Check this out. Ooh, look at my main screen. We're going to be taking your questions here in the YouTube chat. Prosy1 Full keeps getting slow SD in the air unit. There are some people who say that there's a bug in a certain firmware that gives slow SD. There's other people who say that you need a faster SD card. It's hard to know which is your situation, Prosy1 Full. If I were getting slow SD, I would try a different SD card, a faster SD card. Maybe what I always do is I always format the SD card in the air unit before I fly. Like I'll just grab a random SD card out of an SD card holder and I'll just stick it in there, and I don't know how it's been formatted. So at the beginning of the flight session, always format SD in the air unit in the goggles. And that I've actually had situations where if I don't format the SD card at the end of the session, the SD card is corrupted. But I found, and this is a good thing to do with every camera, GoPro, Runcam, every device, insert the card, format the card in the device. Don't format it in your PC. You can save yourself a lot of hassle that way. Maybe that would fix the problem. I don't know. Why would that fix it? I don't know. But we're going to be answering your questions just like that. Questions from you guys here in the chat. Questions from these beautiful people up here in my Discord server. These beautiful people are my patrons. They're in my Discord server, and that's one of the advantages of being a patron. OCDFPV is still waiting on his FETTech 45 amp from Defiance RC. Defiance RC! Actually, we should be bugging FETTech, not Defiance RC. Hello, Archimedes. Smile and wave, boys. Just smile and wave. It's a good movie. And down here in the super chats, and in case you don't know how this YouTube thing works, right down here at the bottom of the chat is a $sign. Here, let's hang on a second. Let me make sure you guys can. There we go. Hang on. Right down here at the bottom is a $sign. You hit that $sign and you can throw a couple bucks, and when you do that, you get called out here like Io Aina. Thank you for £2.99 pounds, not euros. Sorry, Io. £2.99 in the super chat, and that's it. I'll call your name out. I'll answer your question. That's what we're gonna do here. But before we do that, we're gonna do news of. Now look, OBS. Make up your mind what size you want this text to be, because sometimes I turn it on and it's humongous, and sometimes I turn it on and it's small. OBS, make up your mind. Your OBS has been flawless until recently, and it's starting to piss me off. News of the day. It's time for news of the day. Did you know that there were things going on in the world? That's called news. We're still working out that theme song. I'm gonna keep doing that theme song until one of you makes a actual news bumper for me, like a little graphic or something. And I don't care which of my singing, I've done different singing intros. I don't care which one you use, just pick one. Thank you, CIDFPV in the chat. I gotta say, I used to use XSplit. XSplit is a commercial competitor to OBS. That's the, here, check it out. This is the, no, oh my God. This is the streaming software that I'm using. It's capturing my screen. It's streaming it all to you lovely people. And there's a competitor to it called XSplit that costs a ton of money, costs a couple $100. It's actually a subscription based, and then you can, for like a couple $100, you can get a lifetime subscription. I used XSplit for a long time because I was like, the free one. I'm a big time streamer. I'm going to use XSplit. I'm going to pay for my, and XSplit was not good. It wasn't good for me. And what, leaked password? I don't think I leaked my password. Did I? Oh man. Where's my password? Where's the pass? I don't think so. Oh, am I in trouble now? So XSplit started having bugs. So I was like, I'll try OBS. It turns out all the pro streamers use OBS. And OBS has been amazing. It's free. It's been amazing. And then lately it's just started being screwy. So I don't know what to say. News of the day. Let's do news. News. Thanks to my patron in the Discord. Who sent me this? I can't remember who it was. Was it Dragon Doggy? Dragon Doggy in the Discord sent me this just before the stream. Thank you, Dragon Doggy. Chinese drone maker DJI makes sweeping cuts in Long March reforms. Chinese drone giant DJI has been making sweeping cuts to its global sales and marketing teams as it faces coronavirus headwinds and mounting political pressure in key markets. No comments in the chat about the political pressure. We keep politics mostly out. Every so often, I bring politics in. That's my prerogative. It's my show. Don't start with that. I don't want to hear any of that in the chat. Mounting political pressure, current and former staff told Reuters. So, the reason I think this is newsworthy to us is, like, who knows what this has to do with. Maybe they're just getting rid of a bunch of marketing people, and it has nothing to do with their tech plans. But people are speculating big time on when the next version of the DJI goggles is going to come out. Should you buy DJI V1 today, or should you wait for DJI V2? And I don't know. But have sales gone up or down in the last 6 months from what DJI projected? Probably down, right? I don't know. A whole bunch of people spent their $1,200 government check buying DJI, so maybe they went up. My gut feeling is that the likelihood of V2 coming out has a lot to do with the demand for V1. I don't know. Maybe when demand for V1 dries up, they'll go, okay, time to drop V2 and kick it up a notch. I don't know. I guess I don't know is the answer. Try to read the tea leaves. Anyway, let's see what else we got for news. News. It's news. Did you know all the things that are going on out there? If you do, would you tell me? Send some email to news@joshuabardwell.com with any news for this segment and save me the trouble of doing my own research. Because I am busy and I don't want to. Okay. Tango 2. Oh, Tango 2 module bay. What do we got here? Oh, TBS. Oh, TBS. Oh. How about that? What? No, I thought the day would never come. Oh my goodness. That's not a... Holy crap. That's not a JR module bay. Holy crap. Aftermarket mod. New ribbon cable connection. Aftermarket mod at a module bay to your Tango 2. But what module? What module fits this? Is this a... This isn't a... I don't recognize this module at all. Skadoosh, tell us the truth. Light style module. That's a... Is that a... It doesn't look like it's the right size, but it says it is. It's a light style module bay add-on for Tango 2. So that must be the... You would use like the iRange X light module. XJR. It's for the iRange module. Okay, thank you. It's just the size of it looks way off, but I guess the Tango 2 is smaller than it seems like it is. So if you have a recent Tango, you already have the plug on your main board to plug in this module. If you have one of the Gen 1 Tangos, you probably can buy a main board, I'm going to guess is how they're going to handle that, but you will need to get a main board and swap it out. Woo! Joe Gray points out, thank you, Joe, for chiming in here. You have to cut holes in your case, though. Not sure why they did that instead of just a replacement back panel. Probably has a lot to do with, well, money. If they had to sell new back panels, it would have cost more money, I guess. That's my guess. Oh my God, that's right. Joe Gray also reminds us that Immersion RC Ghost is going to come in that form factor. Does that mean you could have a ghost, an Immersion RC Ghost in the back of your Tango 2, and then like the world, remember in Ghostbusters where they crossed the streams and then, no wait, they didn't cross the streams. You see my point though. Okay. So Crossfire going to be able to have 2.4 gigahertz. When the Tango 2 came out, I said, I am not a big fan of game controller radios, but this is the most ergonomic game controller style radio I've ever held. And I said, it doesn't support 2.4 gig, But if it weren't for those things, I would be mighty tempted to make the Tango 2 my main radio. And now they have solved one of those two things by giving... I'm pretty impressed. Oh, toothpicks. What else we got here? Let's skip that one. Yeah, everybody is sending me this TBS module bay. That's great. Drone almost hits Air Force One. Thank you for sending this in. Breaking: drone nearly hit Air Force One carrying President Trump. No politics in the chat. I'm serious. Keep it friendly. Keep it welcoming. Multiple witnesses say a drone came too close for comfort with Air Force One as it headed toward a touchdown in Washington last night. Was it a drone? Was it a drone? Resembled a drone, though I'm no expert. Who knows? Who flippin' knows? No one knows. As with most drone close calls, no one can prove it was actually a drone. It's just like, maybe it was a drone. We think it might have been. Anyway. All right, that's news. If you really want news, you got to watch the Sunday stream. I get all the week's news out of the way on Sunday, and then the Monday stream only gets like the news that came in overnight. So let's do some questions. Let's do some super chats out of the way. News of the day. Bye-bye, news. No more news for today. Boom. Done. Now, normally this is the part where I would put my schedule on. Why is it down there? OBS. What are you doing, OBS? What are you doing, OBS? You're killing me. What are you doing? Is this right? Wait a minute. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's right. All right. Killing me. Normally this is the part of the stream where I would put the schedule up and tell you I stream Sundays at 1 p.m. and Mondays at 8 p.m. I want to tell you real quick that there will not be a stream next weekend, and there will not be a stream the weekend after that. So let me get a calendar up. I know you guys hate when I miss streams, so I want to warn you so you're not too disappointed. The 23rd I will not stream, and the 30th I will not stream. So the next time you will see me here will be September 6th, I believe, is how it will work out. I have a trip coming up. I'm doing training for some folks, and I will be, I don't try to stream from the road because it's just no good. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take some questions. Shot FPV, is Fat Shark going to require new goggles for their HD system, or are my Dominator V3s compatible? Shot FPV, excuse me, I believe anybody whose goggles have HDMI input is going to do okay. Do your Dom V3s have HDMI input? Dom V3s are pretty old. They also have the widescreen, the 16:9 screen. I guess that should be okay. And then the big question is, what resolution do they take? I think it'll work, though. I think it'll work. So yeah, any goggle, and it doesn't have to be a Fat Shark goggle either. Vic and Air FPV wants to know, have you heard of many folks experiencing hot motors on Betaflight 4.2? Vic and Air, no. With every release of Betaflight, there's someone out there who has decided that it's got a bug and it's killing their quad. And maybe they're right. Maybe your quad has some problem with Betaflight 4.2. I wouldn't say that there is in general a problem on 4.2 with hot motors. Skadoosh knows it all. He says that Trappy has said that they will be making their own version of the iRange X4, and there will be a mod to fit the VR Lite and the full-size Crossfire units. Very interesting. The V2 Lite and full-size, thank you. Interesting. So some people are having hot motors on Betaflight 4.2, but it's like, is that in general? I don't think that's like a widespread problem. Let me get this question from Airscape FPV. Airscape is in the Discord and therefore is a patron, so I should pay extra attention, right? That's how you're supposed to do it, isn't it? I don't know. Can anyone help with these questions? Number one, is there any pad on a Tiny Whoop style flight controller which I can pin out any of the 4 motor signals? Can I remap it? I don't know about that. AirScape, at the end of the day, because on the Crazy Bee style flight controllers, the ESC is built in, so they don't break out the motor traces. If you want to, you could solder to the pins on the microprocessor. It depends on what package they use. Let's look. Let's just find a picture of a Crazy Bee. What F4 chip do they use? That's the question. Well, maybe we need to see the other side. The other side has the ESC. Where's the F4? That's the ESC side. Which of these is this? Which of these is the F4? Yeah, I was afraid of that. Hi, Oscar Leon. Thank you for the... Oh, there we go. Here's one. So here's one, and you could... yeah, so they've used a tiny surface mount package for the F4. Normally, you could solder to one of these little legs and get the motor signal, but they've got these tiny, tiny pins here, and most people will not be able to solder to those. I think you may be out of luck, to be honest. What about on the other side, the FET? Is there somewhere on the other side that we could like solder to the input of the microprocessor? Well, you see where I'm going. That's the level that we're at. If you need to get at these motor traces, I think you got your work cut out for you. I think it's going to be difficult. There is not any easy place to do that. Could I remap one of these motor outputs to the LED strip pad? Yeah, probably. Probably you can. It wouldn't be PWM1. The resource would be motor 1, not PWM1, though. AirScape FPV. Hang on one second. Okay. Revive says the Dom V3 have mini HDMI input. That's the same for all the Fat Shark goggles. They have the mini. That's fine. Josh Feltz. I'm trying to keep that on the down low, Josh Feltz, so that all the patrons can get in first. So Josh Feltz, thank you for your super chat for $2. I'm going to remove your super chat, though. I'm trying to keep that on the down low. No harm done, but I'm going to try and I'm not going to talk about that until the patrons have their chance to get in. None your business. Thank you for $5 in the super chat. Ayo Aina, thank you for £2. I meant to add this question to my super chat. Which question? I bet I don't see the question. Oh, I got to go back and look for Ayo. Yep. I don't see it. If I have a whoop style board, oh, that's the question I just asked. Okay, thank you, Io. Robocop FPV, thank you for $5 in the super chat. What would you say is the closest analog FPV camera to HD? CMOS or CCD? Which brand and model? Robocop, I believe that the HD cameras typically, if not exclusively, use a CMOS sensor. I don't mean like big cameras, like handheld cameras, but the micro cameras, all the HD ones, I'm pretty sure they use CMOS sensors. I think that CMOS is closer. The image tends to be more sort of colorful, wider dynamic range. As far as brand and model, that's very tough. None of the analog cameras really come close to HD in terms of resolution. So then, like, in terms of image quality, I mean, that's really very subjective. The thing is, I feel like SD cameras, standard definition cameras, are more subjective and more divisive in which people like them and which people hate them. I mean, here's why. If you show me a $3,000 Sony camera, I was going to say DSLR, but they're all mirrorless now. If you show me a $3,000 Sony mirrorless camera, a $3,000 Canon camera, a $3,000 Nikon camera, and you show me pictures from all of them and say, so which one of these do you like? I mean, you're going to like all of them. You might like one a little better, but they're all going to be pretty freaking good. But when you have a standard definition FPV camera, they all look like crap. And it's just which flavor of crap do you prefer to eat? How'd you like that picture for your... wasn't that... So some people look at a CCD image and they go, well, the resolution is poor, but it's got good contrast. Some people look at a CMOS image and they go, it's got a lot of sharpening shimmer, but it's got great dynamic range. No, I wouldn't say any of them are like the best. I'm sorry to say. You just got to look at some of the good ones and see which one you like best. B-Man80, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Just want to say thanks for helping my flight controller issue the other way. That's awesome. Thank you very much for your donation. Raven187, $2 Australian. DJI FPV Quad leaks drone DJ article on August 13th. Yeah, people have been looking at these patent filings and wondering if DJI is going to release an FPV quad. Chomper FPV, thanks for $10 in the super chat. Scott Schneider, thanks for $5. Thanks for the answer on the HD2 versus Orca. Thank you. Alep FPV wants to know my opinion on Kiss FC so far. Well, I mean, it's hard to know how much of it I liked was because it's Mr. Steele's quad and Mr. Steele's tune, and how much was inherently Kiss, but I liked it a lot. Matt wants to know what I'm drinking. It's not lemonade and vodka, it's a gin and tonic. Lynn Watkins, what props work as replacements for the Tyro 119? That's a tough one, Lynn. I mean, they use the Cyclone 6-inch prop, but I've heard that you can't find them anywhere. I don't know what are good 6-inch props. I mean, I've flown the HQ 6-inch tri-blade, and I didn't think it was exceptional. And other people who fly 6-inch said, nah, it's not a great one. But what is a great 6-inch prop? The Lumineer Buttercutter comes to mind. I think they make a 6-inch one of those. I'm not sure. What's a good 6-inch prop? How about letting us know in the chat, people who fly 6-inch. Joseph S. wants to know, what did you use to study for your ham exam? I used hamstudy.org. I actually have a video about this. I left it was way back. I may need to... I'm going to have to re-up my ham. How long is that? 10 years, I think? So I used hamstudy.org. This is a great way to study for your ham exam. Basically, you just take the practice tests, and they quiz you harder on the sections you missed. So honestly, I didn't really study at all. I just started taking the practice tests. And in the beginning, I got every answer wrong. Well, not like every answer, but I looked at the ones I got wrong. I looked at the correct answer, and I just kept going until I was making, greater than 90%. And then I took the test and I passed. That's how I did it. Ethics K2 says Argyle Sky. The HQ V1S 6-inch. The 6-inch HQ that I flew was not the V1S. Azure 6145, Mr. Crowley and his drone suggests. Nunya Business forgot to attach his question to the super chat, but where is your question, Nunya? I'm going to try and catch it. You gave me $5. That's the least I can do. You got to ask it again, and I'm going to try to catch it, okay, Nunya? Let's see here. AK Drone Flyer in the Discord wants to know, is it possible to build a DJI Digital HD drone using either the Kakute F7 HDV or the Sussex DF7 and be able to fly it not only with the DJI remote controller, but also with an analog FreeSky radio interchangeably? No, you can't swap back and forth except by going into the configuration and changing the config. So what you could do is you could wire the DJI up to UART2 and the FreeSky up to UART3. And then in the ports tab, you change the serial RX from 2 to 3. And in the configuration tab, you change the serial receiver protocol. You could do that. But there's no way to just turn it on and whichever one is on works. So you would have to manually change the configuration. Hold on a second. One second. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Do 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 do. Da 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 dee. Now there are 2 words that are blocked on my channel. I don't know what that word means, but by context, I feel like it means something. Let's see here. Has Nunya Business asked his question? Are there any 6-in-1 ESCs for an X-Rotor Hexacopter? Nope. None. None that I know. I don't think there are any. I'm trying to be cagey and say none that I know of, Nunya Business. I don't think there are any. Everybody I know who builds a Hexacopter either uses individual ESCs, or there was one guy I know who built an Octo with 2 4-in-1s. Nobody makes a 6-way 4-in-1. 6-in-1. I just don't think it exists. Sorry about that. Let's see. Eric LaPlante, thank you for $5 in the super chat. What are your thoughts on the GoPro Light Naked GoPro? Have you tried the mod? I have not tried it. The footage I've seen from people flying the Naked GoPro is freaking amazing. It gets the GoPro down to such a lightweight. The only downside I see of the Naked GoPro is that if it ejects, then you lose your footage, right? You lose, it doesn't stay powered up if you get unplugged or if it ejects. But I think for the kind of flying people are doing with Naked GoPros, that's not a big deal. The ability to have full GoPro quality with such lightweight is just unreal. So I think it's a really, really cool thing, and I think we're going to see a lot more of it. Creamy B FPV, thanks for $2 in the super chat. New receiver module bay for Skyzones, yay or nay? The whole point of Skyzones is they have the receivers built in, right? So we got a receiver module bay for them. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's good to have options, but it looks really clunky. And at that point, you might just buy Fat Sharks or Orcas or whatever. Anyway. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I did that. Because, yeah, it's a hot dog. It's a hot dog. Here's why. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you the straight truth. So this object is, it's a Spanish word for a chorizo hot dog. Okay, that's fine. It's just food. But then a bunch of people in the chat are like, say the word, say the word, say this word. So maybe it's like, you know, UFDA crew, Parmesan approved. It's just your, and then it's just your thing. Okay, whatever. But then Guillermo Nespolo says, I saw a video over in the TBS lounge of Trappy loving the churropan. There's just something unseemly about that. Trappy was in there loving the chorizo hot dog. He was loving that hot dog. And I was like, you know what? I feel like there's an undertone here, and I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I didn't watch the latest TBS Lounge. Is it just a freaking hot dog? Is that it? Have I completely misread things? I don't know. Maybe it's just Guillermo. It's a, I know what it is, but sometimes things have two meanings. Sometimes things have two meanings. All right, look. All right, you got me. You got me. Hold on. There you go. All right, I fixed it. I removed it. Then Bardwell blocked the national food of Argentina. Why do you hate Argentina, Bardwell? Yeah, I know. Shot FPV. Thank you. Thank you. That's my guess, Shot FPV. It's slang. What on earth could a sausage be slang for? What on earth could it be slang for? Gosh, I have no idea. I have no idea. It's probably just a sausage. Just a hot dog. That's all it is. Moving on. Carlos Zarate, thank you for 7 PEN. Thank you for 7 P. What's a PEN? Oh, that's a new one for me. Thank you for 7. That doesn't help. It's a soul. What country is it? Peruvian soul. Thank you. From Peruvia. Should I wait for digital FPV? Oh, no, sorry. Do you think that Fat Shark's work on digital FPV is in vain? Do you think digital FPV is the future? What other players are out there? Carlos, I'm going to answer your questions in the opposite order. What other players are there? There's DJI. Fat Shark is working on their Shark Bite system, and Orca has heavily dropped hints that they're working on a digital system, but they haven't said anything firm. So those are the 3 players right now, at least the 3 players who I feel like are worth paying any attention to. Do you think digital FPV is the future? 100% yes. 100% it's the future. If there is a future for FPV, which if the FAA has their way, maybe there won't be, but if there is a future for FPV, then digital is the future. The tidal wave has already started. There are already people flying FPV who have never flown analog. They got into FPV, they bought DJI, they have only ever flown DJI, and when you put analog on their face, they retch. They go, oh, what is this? Why? How do you even? And they rip the goggles off their face, they throw them at you, and they spit on you. No, that happens. That's what they do, because they have never experienced what we got used to. It's like you listen to a record. Your parents, your grandparents listen to records, and it's all like crickety, crickety, crickety. And you're like, Grandpa, this is a CD. This is an MP3. Look, these are ear pods. And he's like, you shut up. That's what we look like, those of us who fly analog to these young upstarts with their DJI goggles. Digital is the future. Analog is going to become less and less popular as over time. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's DJI. It just means digital. Do I think that Fat Shark's work on digital FPV is in vain? Unfortunately, I am not allowed to answer that question right now, because I received Bitefrost in the mail, and I am testing it right now. Now, if I hadn't received it, I would give you my off-the-cuff opinions. But since I received it, now I'm not allowed to talk about it until I'm allowed to talk about it. See what I'm saying? So, is Fat Shark's work in vain? I couldn't say yes or no. I couldn't comment at all about that. That's that. My dog is at the window. Oh, great. My dog is at the window. He's outside and he wants to come in. Hang on. Okay. Yeah. Not Vic and Air, not a non-disclosure per se, more like an embargo. They said, please don't release any content. So Phantom FPV in the chat saying DJI is legit. Someone needs to answer back. And Phantom FPV is a strong analog pilot. He is a strong analog pilot and proponent, but finally he was won over by the sheer awesomeness of flying in HD. I agree that someone needs to answer back. If it's not Fat Shark, it's got to be Orca. If it's not Orca, maybe it's Immersion RC. In a world where there is only one market leader, the market leader tends to become complacent. And to be fair, DJI doesn't seem to... DJI seems to, even when DJI is complacent and not trying that hard, they still churn out more stuff. They still churn out more stuff. Sorry, I'm distracted. My dog is trying to get in my window. I'm trying to get my wife to go let him in. So he stops bothering me. Jonah C says, "Isn't Bifrost analog?" I wouldn't say the camera. The camera uses the analog HD format to output, but the wireless link is digital. But HD analog is still fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's still HD. So DJI does need a competitor. Somebody needs to be out there. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. They're just a 5,000-pound gorilla. They're just a 5,000-pound gorilla. They have so much money and so much ability to develop. And it's going to be, I think it's fair to say that it is going to be very difficult for anyone to beat DJI at their own game. So if a company like Fat Shark, like Orca, and I've said this before, if a company like Fat Shark or Orca is going to carve out a niche and fight them off, they have to do it by doing stuff that DJI won't do. If you fight DJI at their own game, you probably will lose. How many people out there are making Mavic-style drones and succeeding against DJI? Very few. There are some, but very few. So they're going to need to do things like HDMI input, which DJI won't do or isn't doing. So Phantom FPV points out the Caddx Vista is tough. Yeah, but DJI makes the Caddx Vista. I mean, can we all look at the Caddx Vista and ask ourselves whether Caddx actually built this? Look at a Caddx Vista and look at a Caddx, any other Caddx product side by side, and ask yourself if you feel like the same company designed it. It's or built it. So Jesus Christ. All right, now the dogs are in. What was I saying? Jameson Cox, thanks for $5 in the super chat. I just built my first 5-inch, 0 legal places to fly around me anywhere outside of AMA fields. Is it common for freestylers to fly in illegal areas? Yes, it's common. Let's just be honest. King of Losing, thanks for $5 Canadian. How do you tune for varying weather? 30 to 35 Celsius, motor gets hot. 22 to 27 Celsius, motor's normal. I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, I would probably just send it and hope the motor didn't smoke, and it probably wouldn't smoke. That's probably what I would do. P.S. Ariel, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Cheers on gin. Any tuning notes on a Tadpole with T-Motor F1103 motors and Talon F7 Nano flight controller? My tuning notes are the same as always. Get RPM filtering working and work your filter sliders to the right until you get hot motors or other negative sound, other negative effects. That's the number one thing to do. Nick Hessen, thanks for $5. Hoda or HobbyMate? I know they're the same, but they're two different brands. There's literally no difference between them. Just pick whichever one is on sale or whichever one, you can get in stock. There's literally no difference between them. Carlos Zarate, I got you there. Nike 31 FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Should I wait for digital FPV to get more popular, or should I get HDO2 goggles now and keep analog? Digital is clearly the way of the future. If DJI is in your budget, I would say most people will probably be better off buying it now. Yeah, so many people are getting DJI and are just thrilled with it. I would have a hard time. Anybody who has the $500 or $600 budget to buy HDO2, unless you just fly nothing but analog. Like, if you have a ton of analog quads, HDO2 or Orca are a great, great goggle. Better than DJI for analog, no question. But if you're starting from zero and you're wondering which way to go, I've seen so many people be thrilled with digital, it's hard to steer you towards analog. Phantom FPV says, if you crash a lot, get analog. Yeah, the digital system is pretty darn robust. By the way, I never fly anywhere illegal. I don't. I've heard that other people do. I don't, though. Kat says, I just hate that everybody who can't afford DJI is condemned to a shitty feed. I mean, isn't that the way of life, though? I mean, it sucks, but, you know, the rich people get the good stuff first because they can afford it. Like, right now, are you driving a Mercedes? Are you driving a BMW? I don't know, pick your car, right? Are you driving a Lexus? Maybe you are. But, you know, the rich people get the good stuff first, and eventually, hopefully it trickles down. I don't know. I mean, analog is still perfectly usable. What kind of range is normal with the DJI Air unit? Said Sawzy FPV. I noticed myself getting red bars in the DJI goggles only a couple hundred yards away. Yeah, red bars is a bad sign, man. Make sure you're at max power. If you're using the Vista, the number one thing you gotta do with the Vista is turn temperature protection off. You gotta turn it off. Just turn it off. So that's why you're getting red bars. If you have an Air unit, you shouldn't be getting red bars. Bad Habit RC, thanks for $2 in the super chat. The puppies aren't coming on stream. They've been in the videos sometimes, but they're not coming on stream. Hey Jesse, thanks for $5 Canadian. Can I put a standard 5-inch motor on a smaller frame like a Squirt versus using the T-Motor 1507s I have now? Most likely a 3-inch frame doesn't have the correct spacing of motor mounting holes to hold a larger motor. If you were to like 3D print some kind of an adapter, in theory you could do it, but the problem is they're going to be so heavy. They're going to be so heavy. So it's not going to fly well. You put a 5-inch motor on a 3-inch frame, it's not going to make enough thrust to offset its own weight, and that's going to be the problem. Jonah C says, I find that the bars turn red really early on my DJI system, but my megabits are still fine. So maybe just use the megabits. I'd be worried though. Down to 2 bars. I mean, if I had 2 bars and 25 megabits per second, I'd be kind of surprised, to be honest. But I guess maybe I would. I'd still worry a little. Jeremy Lunati wants to know, I was flying my drone on a 4S battery. I got 6S batteries. It worked great till just the other day I did a flip and it acted like the throttle was raised when it wasn't. Yeah, the problem is you're flying 6S batteries on, I mean, I assume it's like a 2400 kV motor. So the motor is just making crazy RPMs, it's making crazy vibrations, and eventually the P and the D gain are going to be effectively too high and it's going to try to fly away. That's my guess. It started to have really bad prop wash. I let it cool off for a bit, ran a 4S again, it was fine. Ran a 6S, the prop wash was worse. And now I don't get the second startup tone. Well, your flight controller died. Now, that isn't necessarily because you were running 6S batteries. It might have just been it's time to go, but your flight controller died. So time to replace the flight controller. Is there any way to show the bit rate in the goggle feed? ProZ1 full. The bit rate, the DJI bit rate is in the goggle feed. I guess I'm not sure what you're asking. Do I storage charge my 1S batteries, Mike T? No, because there's no charger that has an easy way to storage charge 1S batteries. I mean, so they just run them down and then leave them, and then they're crappy the next time I fly them. So there you go. Vinyl says bandwidth fluctuates between 48 and 38, but rarely ever reaches 50, even when it's right next to me. Vinyl, that's something in right there. In all the quads that I've enabled the 50 megabit per second mode on, before you take off, you're just at 50. Well, maybe 49.9 or something. It could be a bad antenna. Again, if it's the Caddx Vista, you have to turn off the temperature protection or you will not get the full performance out of it. Hugo Hebert is setting up his first Crossfire setup. My Nano RX is just, I have a steady green LED and it's not binding to the TX. When I press the bind button, nothing changes. Hugo Hebert, if you have a steady green LED, it's already bound. The other thing to keep in mind, Hugo, is that you have to press the bind button within, I think it's 30 seconds. I'm not sure. That you have to press it within 30 seconds of startup. Or it won't go into bind. People in the chat are pointing out you can make yourself a 2-cell harness for your tiny whoop batteries. Basically turns your two 1S batteries into a 2S battery. All your dreams will come true. That's true. You could just treat it like a regular 2S battery and storage charge it on your regular charger. Phantom FPV is giving advice on bringing batteries back from the dead. Woo! Here's my opinion on bringing batteries back from the dead. First of all, if Phantom FPV recommends it, he's a guy who knows what he's talking about, and he's not a guy who's easy on his batteries. So maybe what I'm talking about isn't. My opinion is that let's say you kill a battery, you discharge it down to 2.5 volts or something, and then you limp it back using the nickel metal hydride charge mode. Its performance has been degraded. It's not going to perform at the level that it did before, I wouldn't think. So now you've got a battery that potentially is going to light on fire on you and is going to perform like crap. Yeah, I don't recommend it, but if Phantom does it, it's probably not completely the worst idea. Just be safe. See here. Yeah, Argle Bargle. Oh, good point. Argle Bargle? Hang on. Yeah. Can't believe I forgot about this. Can't believe I forgot about this. Yeah, good idea. This is the Flying Sandal series charge board for 1S whoop packs. And basically, it takes your 1S tiny whoop packs and turns them into a very, very small 4S LiPo that you can then plug into your charger and you can storage charge them just like normal. Why am I not using this? Go over there. You can get that at Race Day Quads. It is the Flying Sandal. Flying Sandal. Like the sandal that you wear on your foot. The Flying Sandal charge board, they sell it at Race Day Quads. And if you have 1S batteries, you need one. You need one. Because not putting your batteries to storage ruins them. Woo! Christian says, here's how I recover over-discharged batteries. I don't do this. I plug a storage charged battery into the balance board with the dead one. Here's the problem with that, Christian. if the dead one is unrecoverable, it will kill the other one. It will suck it down and they'll both be dead. I mean, it's your batteries. You decide. Excuse me. When will TBS ship more Tango 2s? No one knows. Nickel FD says, I have one of those, and you have to do 4x batteries at once. That's the way series adapters work. In parallel, you can have as many batteries as you want, but they all have to be the same voltage. In series, they can be different voltage, but they all have to be the same milliamp hours, and you have to have as many, you have to have the right number. You can make it yourself, it's true. Nickel FD says the IMAX B6AC V2 has storage charge for 1S. What does that look like? Yeah, a lot of the chargers, a lot of the full-size chargers will not work with a 1S battery. They just don't like it. If they will work with a 1S battery, it's pretty slow because you have a ton of tiny watt batteries. And trying to storage charge all of them with a little adapter just can be a real pain in the butt. Samuel Rivera, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Videos of chasing drift cars needs to come to an end. That trend needs to die. Samuel Rivera is referring to today's Rotor Riot episode. If you missed it, Drew and I talked about 10 FPV trends that died. And then I came up with a couple more that need to die. You can check that out over on the Rotor Riot channel. Daniel Navarro, thanks for $2. What's your process for tuning a quad? What's my process for tuning a quad? I would refer you to this video, Betaflight 4.2 in-depth PID tune. This is... Shush now. In this case, I am tuning the iFlight Sedora SL5E, but this is basically my process for trying to get a decent tune out of a quad. Basically, any quad I approach more or less the same way, just the results are different. So I would refer you to this video that gets you Daniel Navarro. That's the video. How do I tune a quad? Number 1, RPM filters enabled. Number 2, filter sliders all the way to the right. I usually start with the filter sliders at 1.5. If the motors are hot at 1.5, I throw the quad in the trash. No. I want my filter sliders to get over to 2.0 if at all possible without getting hot motors or flyaways. See you later, Joe Gray. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate you. Then after the filter sliders are as far to the right as they can, I will consider PID tuning. And I might adjust P and D to try to get rid of prop wash. I might adjust feed forward to try to adjust stick feel. But that's the gist of it. I seldom dive into the black box like somebody like UAV Tech, because I just want to fly my freaking quad. I don't feel like getting that 95th, 96th, 97th percent of perfection on the tune makes as much of a difference. You just get it roughly good, you get the prop wash pretty good, and then just try to become a better pilot. That's what I want to do. Squishy7 says, I run a large car group in my city. I can tell you a whole lot of people who know nothing about FPV are super interested in drift chase footage. It definitely shouldn't die because it gets other people interested. Squishy, you're not wrong. I was being a little bit facetious. Everybody should do what they want, obviously. Bad Habit RC wants to see my dog on stream. Thank you for $2, Bad Habit. It's not going to happen. Not tonight. Have you heard of OpenHD, a new HD FPV player featured on Curry Kitten's channel? Nope, I sure haven't. OpenHD. OpenHD Wiki. Let's see. What is OpenHD? RC over Android hotspot. Nope. Nope. That's not. Tell me more. Raspberry Pi? No. You can't... There's no flippin' way you're going to get adequate latency. Yeah, look. OpenHD, DIY, 135 millisecond latency, digital HD link. You say 135 millisecond latency like it's a good thing. No, there's no way you're going to get adequate latency and performance unless you're doing custom silicon. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. This is interesting, but it's just not feasible. If it's has it gotten better? Is it still 135 millisecond latency? How are you going to run a Raspberry Pi? How are you going to do that? No, it's not for FPV. Curved Kit said it's for fixed wings. Okay, maybe for fixed wings. For long range. Yeah, that's... I believe it. Rusky, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Thank you for what you do. Just got my TBS Unify. I ordered from TBS in April. They do ship. That's Rusky's super chat that I'm reading, which I'm obligated to do as a streamer. I would never talk shit about TBS shipping. Wouldn't happen. Wouldn't do it. JB Engineering, love your name, JB Engineering, says my drone bounces like a ball, and when I'm flying, it starts to fly away at 0 throttle. Why? Oh, JB Engineering, if you lower the throttle and the quad continues to ascend, it probably means that you have excess vibration getting to the gyro or excess degain. Yeah. It oftentimes is a mechanical problem because the default PIDs they're not going to cause flyaways in almost any conditions. So it's probably something mechanical, like a bad gyro, like a loose flight controller that's flapping in the wind, a cracked frame plate it could be, or you've been playing with the tuning and you've moved the filter sliders all the way to the right, and this is one of the signs that you went too far. So that's what I would say. Stefano says, make a latency test to test the latest DJI firmware. Stefano, RC Shim did this, and I think a few other people, but I know RC Shim did it. RC Shim measured the latency of the DJI system with an oscilloscope and concluded that the latency that you see in the DJI goggles is more or less accurate. So when the DJI goggles say 25 millisecond latency, that's what it is. Market Zero. Love that reference, Market Zero. That's a Big Lebowski reference, isn't it? X-Lite complains about throttle when arming unless I push it down hard. Calibration did not help. Market Zero, what you got to do is when you calibrate the sticks, push the stick down as gently as possible. Just touch it gently to the bottom and top. If when you calibrate, you push it down hard, you will then have to push it down hard during normal operation. So during calibration, you want to move the stick as delicately as possible to the top and bottom, left and right. Don't forget to also move any sliders, potentiometers, and if you have a Radio Master or a jumper, move the 6 position switch all the way up and down. You have to calibrate that as well. But the key is when you move the sticks, don't push hard at the edges or it'll throw the calibration off. Josh S. says, how long have you been flying and how long did it take you to get a handle on all this information? That's let me show you something, Josh S. Just the other day, I looked this up. Let's see. How about we do this? Yeah, that's good. Okay, ready? How long have I been flying? This was the very first order of my getting into RC. 4/16/2014. I ordered a Turnigy 9X, a Bixler, And he has other things needed to get a Bixler in the air. Some batteries, some servos. Very first order of me getting into RC, 2014, April 2014. It was before the end of 2014. Whoops, that's the wrong scene. Thank you. Before the end of 2014, I had built a couple fixed wings, and then I had moved on to a multi-rotor, and I never looked back. So I've been doing this like 5 years now. It's a long freaking time. What is a Bixler? Shut your mouth. You go educate yourself. You go educate yourself. What is a Bixler? What is a Bixler? How dare you? And we're up to the Bixler 3. Josh Bixler, the great Josh Bixler, one of the co-founders of Flight Test. He had a plane. This is the Bixler 3. This isn't the one I flew. It was my first plane. Anyway. Lemley FPV says, can you record DVR in the DJI goggles with the analog mod? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. It'll record the analog input to DVR. Didn't used to, but it does now. Flying in Braille, don't apologize. I'm being sarcastic. Don't apologize. How dare you not know what a Bixler is? Get out of here. Sorry, I fly multi-rotors. Good, so do I. Joseph Dawson, thank you for $5, 5 Canadian dollars. The Immersion RC Ghost webpage shows a radio module that's small and looks to be built for an X-Lite. Yeah, they haven't released that yet, but it does exist. Ciati says, imagine the world where Joshua never left fixed wings. I left fixed wings because I got tired of going to the soccer field to fly. I wanted to fly around my house. Now I only ever fly around my house. Could have seen that coming. I'm not joking either. I was like, I just want to go outside my front door and fly my plane, but my yard is too small to fly a plane in. So maybe I'll fly a multi-rotor. I hear that you can fly them in small areas. Then the first time I flew a multi-rotor, I was like, oh my God, my yard is way too small. I got better though. Deaglesy Boy says, Skyzone is finally sending me a new motherboard and receiver to replace the faulty ones in my goggles. Now I need a long-range radio. TX16S with Crossfire V2 is the way to go. It's the way I would go. I mean, Crossfire obviously is the way to go for long range, and I feel like the Radiomaster TX16S, I mean, it's the one that I've been using more than any other lately. So that's probably the direction I would go. Steve Hook wants to know if there's a way to configure DJI FPV S-Bus and Crossfire at the same time. Steve, I think I answered this question earlier in the live stream. You can't do that without plugging in your laptop and reconfiguring the ports tab. So no, there's no way to do that. Nope, no way to do that. Snack Destroyer wants to know, why have a birdhouse if you're going to buzz around it all the time? I mean, I don't know. The birds don't seem to mind. Travis Cook, how would you handle neighbors that aren't cool with drones? That's one of the great reasons I moved to the country. I moved out into the country. My neighbors have chickens and roosters. I have drones. Sometimes they shoot guns. Sometimes they shoot fireworks. Sometimes I hear a motor in the distance go, brrrr, and I'm like, what is that? Doesn't matter. We all live in the country. We all don't give a damn. We try not to piss each other off, but we also understand that's why we all moved to the country. The first guy to move into my neighborhood and go, could y'all just keep it down, is going to get laughed right out of the HOA meeting, which doesn't exist because we don't have a HOA, because that's why we moved to the country. So how would I deal with neighbors that aren't cool with drones? I mean, I have 3 acres. I just don't fly near above their property. Now, that answer isn't going to apply to everybody. I hear from a lot of people who say things like, how can I make my drone quieter because it bothers my neighbors? I don't know, man. I really don't. I probably, if I lived like in a subdivision and my neighbors were annoyed at me, I probably just wouldn't fly in my yard. Probably. I don't know. That's a tough one. I try not to piss off my neighbors, you know? At the same time that we all just kind of accept that each other are doing weird things. I don't know. I probably wouldn't fly at my house if it really pissed my neighbors off. I'd probably go somewhere else and fly. But that's why I moved to the country. Because I didn't want to deal with that crap. So. I do, in fact, eat me a lot of peaches. Nathan Maudsley says, is OpenLogger worth it? OpenLog won't work with the latest Bayflight versions. I have OpenLogger on a couple of my quads. What do you mean OpenLog won't work, though? It's just a serial input. That's all you do is a serial input and spit out the data. How could OpenLog not work? Nathan Maudsley. The difference is OpenLogger goes up to like 2.47 megabits per second. It goes like ridiculously fast. So I just put a couple OpenLoggers in a couple of my quads because I was tired of not having stick overlay when I fly these quads. OpenLogger, in case you don't know, it's a black box logger. You just slip an SD card into it and you hook it up to a UART, and it just logs your black box data really, really fast. The problem with OpenLog is that it used to go up to like 250 kilobaud, which is not fast enough for 2K gyro or PID loop. But OpenLogger can go super fast. So I just started using it, and if you have a quad like a Tiny Whoop that doesn't have black box, OpenLogger is how guys like Mark Spatz tune those quads. Phantom FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chat. Appreciate that. Craig Shell, thank you for $5. I just built a 3-inch with Zing 1204 motors. It gets very hot on 3S. Not sure where to go from here. Craig, I don't. There's too much variation in your question to be able to give you a solid answer. So you built a 3-inch with 1204 motors. That better be a toothpick, right? If you tried to build a Cinewhoop with 1204 motors, it's way too heavy, and that's why the motors are hot. So the first thing you got to tell me is, like, what's your all-up weight? And then I'm sorry to say I still may not be able to help you much. But if you're around, let's say 100 grams, then those 1204 motors are probably about right. I still don't know the KV of the motors. So we need to know the KV of the motors. We need to know the weight of the quad. Ciati's trying to poach my super chats. Craig Shell, I'm watching for you in the regular chat, Craig, because I don't want Ciati to poach my chats, my super chats. So Craig, what is the KV of the motor, and what is the all-up weight of the quad? Battery and everything as flown. It's a toothpick. Okay, what's the KV? And what prop? I guess we got to know the prop. Well, you said 3-inch, but... Ciati, do you agree 1204 is about right for a toothpick? I think it's a little big, but I think people are running like they originally toothpicks were like, I don't know, 11XX, 9XX something. Now they're up to like 12XX. Ciati says the Zing motors are kind of notchy. They may just run hot. 6,500 kV. Let's see. 1204, 6,500 kV on 3S. Huh. That feels high to me. Yeah. 13. Ciati says 1204s are great, or 1303 for 3-inch props. Well, he's running 3-inch props on a 1204. 1204 is 6,000. 6,000 for 3S? 47. That's probably not insane. Everybody in the chat's saying it's too high. Metal Dirt Skin says 5,000 kV would be about perfect for a 3S toothpick. People are saying 6,000 kV on 3-inch props, maybe a little high. Okay, 6,500 is a lot for 3-inch props on 3S. There we go. So now I'm poaching Ciati's super chats. So try 2.5-inch props, Craig Shell. Go down to 2.5-inch props. The consensus in the chat is that you're overpropping those motors. Or go down to 2S. Good point, Jeremy Sarge. Pardon me for talking with ice in my mouth. Go down to 2S. 2S on 3-inch props. I'm still watching the Discord. The Discord is just talking amongst themselves, though. No one's asking questions in the Discord. Discord, I haven't forgotten you. You're just not asking me any questions. That's fine. Nuts, thank you for $2 in the super chat. Any idea on OpenTX update for touchscreen on TS16S? Yeah, Nuts, we're waiting for OpenTX 2.4. We're just waiting. Just waiting. 2.4. I don't know. No one knows when it's coming. Colin Lockemer says, thank you for $5, Colin Lockemer. I'm getting into both drones and planes. I'm still doing sim and looking into radios. Recently came across the Radio Master TX16S. Is it a good radio for both drones and planes? I would say so. Yeah, why not? What do you think is too heavy for 6 inches? Big Data Pimp, all my quad weights are calibrated for 5-inch and below. On a 5-inch, I like to be below, let's say, 750 grams at maximum. Ideally closer to 700, and obviously less is better. For 6-inch, you could probably carry a little more weight, but not that much more. You're just going to be cruising a little more than doing like snappy freestyle. I feel like for 6-inch, maybe you get up to 800 grams, you'd be okay. Depends on what you're trying to build, but I feel like the weight for 6-inch is about the same as for like 5-inch. Dan Richmond says, when I land, one motor's hotter than the rest. Is this a bad sign? I mean, define hotter. Is it like, oh, ow, hot? Then it's messed up. I'll probably replace the motor. If it's like slightly warmer, it's not a big deal. It just means that motor's working a little hard. Pardon me. Matthew Iosa, why does my quad flip out and go full throttle as soon as I arm? Because your board alignment is wrong. Your flight controller is not facing forward. Your motor mapping is wrong. You rotated the ESC, but you didn't remap the motors. So Betaflight thinks the back right motor is actually like the front right motor. Board alignment, motor order, motor direction. You have a motor spinning counterclockwise, but it should be spinning clockwise. Or you put your props on wrong. Those are the 4 things that can cause that. Jack Lenoir says, what if the two, or Lenois, depending on where you live, what if the two back motors are hotter than the front motors? That's normal, Jack. When a quad goes into forward flight, the rear motors are working, they're getting turbulent air from the front motors, so the rear motors have to spin faster to make the same amount of thrust. As a result, the rear motors work harder because you're normally in forward flight, and they come down a little hotter. Mike's Camping says, are your 2407 motors good for 6-inch at 400 grams all up weight? I think larger stator motors are good for 6 and 7-inch props. 2407, my motors are like 2500 kV. I'd probably run that with a throttle curve because that's a little bit of a high kV for 6-inch on 4S. But it'll be okay. I might take it a little easy. But how do you have a 6-inch that's 400 grams all up weight? Are you sure you don't mean dry weight without the battery? John Solo in the Discord. While flying today, when I would hit things, the quad wouldn't bounce off anymore. It would just do a flat spin, headed out to sea, and crash. I didn't change any settings or anything. I think that what's happening is that your gyro is like overloading itself and not recovering. Betaflight 4.2 has some additional protection for gyro over spinning too fast and maybe better at recovering. But since your quad didn't used to do this and now it is, it may be that there's something mechanical wrong. I would give the quad a once-over to see if there's any mechanical issue, like broken standoffs, something touching the flight controller. Maybe the flight controller is damaged. I don't know. But I would check the flight controller to see if the gyro is getting more vibration or movement than it was. Ciati says it sounds like crash recovery. I mean, crash recovery, the flat spin? Campbell Gray, I have not tested the Nebula V2. I have seen other people's tests. They didn't send me the Nebula. I don't know. That's very interesting. They sent me the Nebula V1. I tested it, and I said, it looks really bad. And they said, oh, man, hang on. We're going to try again. They sent me an updated one. This was not the Nebula V2. Maybe it was. And I was like, yeah, it still looks the same. The Nebula V2 was a little better. I still am not sure what... So the Nebula is like 5 grams lighter and like 5 millimeters smaller, roughly. And it's hard for me to see the application because the image quality is significantly worse, in my opinion. And you don't have the ability to tweak the image like you do. I'm talking about the Nebula Micro, by the way, the Nebula Nano, because they've confusingly released 2 cameras with the name Nebula. So there's the Nebula Micro, which has both analog and digital out, and is a completely different camera from the Nebula Nano. The Nebula Nano, you can't adjust the image settings at all, whereas with the DJI camera, you can adjust the exposure, the sharpness, etc. I thought the Nebula Nano looked really bad. And considering that it looked bad and you didn't have the ability to tweak the settings, I was like, I wouldn't buy this. I would just use the DJI camera. Oh, it's 5 millimeters. It's 5 grams heavier. So what? I could probably take it. Then they released the Nebula Nano 2, which I have seen other reviewers show footage, and it looks better. I think they didn't send it to me. I'm guessing because they thought I wouldn't like it. No hard feelings. I don't think I got the Nano 2. Matthew Iosa wants to know if his yaw spin to the moon had something to do with 250% CPU usage. I would look at the CPU usage at the bottom of the GUI, not in the tasks. They are 2 different things. And the CPU usage in the tasks command can be a little misleading. Can you use a Raspberry Pi to run Betaflight or to communicate with the flight controller over MSP? You definitely can use a Raspberry Pi to communicate with the flight controller over MSP. 100%. Definitely. As an Ace Man wants my link for when your UARTs disappear. I mean, yep, Asa, here it is, man. Here it is. Random Family Man says, I do a little segment on Stu from UAV Futures stream. Will you do a little recording for me to help me take the piss out of him? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do my thing. I'm not really interested in playing jokes or playing pranks or hijinks. I'm just going to answer questions and be boring and lame. So, that's all I'm going to do. Porco in the Discord wants to know if I'm going to make a video about the Titan XL5. I have a Titan XL5. It's been on the table behind me for a while. I haven't been flying it because I've been flying analog quads lately. Why? I don't know. I just have. And I haven't... I went to set this up and fly it. This is the Titan XL5 for my flight. I went to set it up and fly it, and then I realized it didn't have a crossfire receiver in it. And I had to get my DJI controller out. I was just like, forget it. And I went and did something else. I'm kind of confused by this quad. I mean, it's like, oh, is it that it has DJI It's pretty big and it's pretty heavy. Like, what does it weigh? What does it weigh? 100? No, that's the frame. What's the all-up weight? Please. No one's gonna tell me. I have it right back there. I could just put it on a scale. It's pretty big. It's pretty heavy. I'm a little bit suspicious that, especially if you put a GoPro on it, it's gonna fly like a pig. I mean, anytime you've got the air unit, got big 5mm base, you're gonna be heavy. I don't know. I don't know. Archangel says it's 2,000 grams. I don't think that's quite right. Jeremiah Davis says, I'm kind of pissed no reviewers are mentioning how bad the nebula is. Can I? Okay, so the original title of this video was Caddx Nebula Nano, the smallest DJI camera you shouldn't buy. And Caddx was like, ouch. And I was like, okay. So I changed it to the smallest DJI camera you can buy, but should you? And if you look at my video, I basically say, no, don't buy it. It's bad. So Jeremiah Davis, I just want to know, I just want to go on record as saying that I covered how bad it was. Anyway. James says, why do the Jumper T16 and the Radio Master look identical? It's like they're made by the same people. James, the guy who founded Radio Master used to work for Jumper. They had a falling out of some kind, and he left and he found Radio Master. And he made a radio, and the Radio Master started with the original design of the Jumper. Now, I don't know the true story behind that, and maybe I never will. Some people say that they had an amicable separation and they agreed that he had the right to use the Jumper design in making his own radio. Other people say that he's a son of a bee. He left, he stole it, and other people say, oh boy, the Chinese are stealing from each other. Whatever will we do? Who could have seen that coming? Surprise Pikachu face. I don't know the answer. But that's why they look identical. They're not made by the same people, but one was definitely born from the other. I didn't answer your question, Proco. Titan XL5, yes, no, maybe. I would have to fly it. It seems heavy, and it seems like like the Titan XL5, the minute I took it out of the box and I held it in my hand, I thought, maybe this is a cruiser, but it's not like a freestyle powerhouse. I think if I was going to fly freestyle with a DJI quad, I'd want something lighter than that. It feels heavy to me. That's one of the reasons I haven't flown it yet. Joseph S. wants to know, does Crossfire have a receiver small enough for small 3-inch quads to whoop-style quads? I mean, 3-inch, yeah, sure. The Crossfire Nano will go on a 3-inch all day. Crossfire Nano weighs about 2 grams. So by the time you get down to a 65mm tiny whoop, 2 grams adds 10% to the weight of the quad. And that's some tiny whoop pilots say, oh my God, oh no, I wouldn't add 2 grams to my quadcopter. Wow, what are you, crazy? I brush the dirt off of it before every race. And other people are like, 2 grams, who cares? There's no doubt that adding 10% to the weight of any quad will affect the handling. I think by the time you get to a 2 or a 3-inch quad, the weight of the Crossfire receiver is negligible. It's a Crossfire Nano. W3ization asks, what are your thoughts on the iFlight Sedora SL5 Advanced versus the SL5E? Let's look at the Advanced. The SL5 Advanced. Is that just the regular SL5? Let's look for the Advanced. There's the Advanced. Yeah, that's just the regular SL5. The SL5 is a good quad. There's no doubt. Has full Zing motors. Has an F7 flight controller. Is that right? I think that's right. Can even order it with a Crossfire receiver pre-installed. F7 flight controller. 50 amp ESC. BLHeli32 ESC. Really nice. And an 800 milliwatt VTX. And it costs $300. Has LEDs on it. Yeah, whatever. If you compare it to the iFlight Sedora SL5E, the SL5E costs $200. Stop it. Costs $200. It has an F4 flight controller, 45 amp ESC. It has Zing E motors, so they don't have the. They have just a steel shaft. I think the iFlight motors, they have a titanium shaft. They're just a step down slightly from the Zing motors, but they're still really good motors. They recently upgraded this damn thing. The SL5E used to have a 400 milliwatt VTX. They upgraded it to have the 800 milliwatt Force VTX, the same as the SL5, and that is where my evaluation of these two quads comes down. Because if you look right behind me on the desk, this is a Sedora SL5E. This is a Sedora SL5E. And behind me on the desk is a Sedora SL5E that I haven't finished setting up yet. I have this trip I'm going on this week. I'm going to be doing some training. And I needed quads to fly. And I looked around me and all of my quads were like beat to crap. And I was like, oh crap, I gotta get some. I can't show up at this class with like just beat up hodgepodge quads. That's not gonna look good. And instead of building my own quads, I just spent $400 and I bought a couple Sedora SL5Es. Are they great quads? Here's my read on the Sedora SL5E. Think about the difference between like a rock star, like a Bono, right? With like a flashy guitar, and a session musician. The session musician just shows up, he gets the job done. He doesn't have a big flashy gold guitar or whatever. He just shows up and he gets the job done. And that to me is what the Sedora SL5E is like. I needed some quads. I needed them to be tip-top shape. I know that my tune for the Sedora SL5E flies great, and it costs $200. And they just upgraded the VTX. I was like, the one thing I don't like about it is that the VTX only goes to 400 milliwatts. And then I bought, I'm not kidding you, I bought these Sedoras, and I bought a couple of iFlight 800 milliwatt VTXs, and I was like, I'm going to swap the VTX out on these guys. And they came in the mail, and they had already upgraded the VTX. So the big problem with the Sedora SL5 Advanced is not that it's not worth $300. This is at every bit a $300 quad. The big problem is that the SL5E is so freaking underpriced. This is easily could be a $250 quad, but they sell it for $200. And I just don't see a good... No one tell them I said this. They'll mark the price up. I just don't see a reason to buy the SL5 Advanced for $100 more when the SL5E has so much freaking value. So that's what I would say. That's what I would say. And I put my money where my mouth is. I literally, one of these, I bought this one too. I bought this one for the Mr. Steel versus the $900 versus $200 quad shootout. And then I bought two more for this trip. And I don't want you guys to tell anybody, because I'm going to show up for this class and I'm going to have these quads, and you'll see, like, I dressed them up, right? Like, I got this special GoPro holder. I printed this. I got my JB props. I got a Lumineer Axion here because I feel like the antenna that comes with it is not the best. I'm going to show up. I'm not going to tell anybody that I didn't build these quads. And I don't want you to tell anybody either, because everybody's going to be impressed. Okay. Twin Turbo Stang. YouTube is screwing with things. Again, I don't get email notifications for new videos. You're not alone there. You're not alone there. A whole bunch of people are not getting YouTube notifications for new videos. They're not getting email. I think they killed the email notifications. Jeremy Sarge wants me to explain the new Crossfire LQ OSD values in Betaflight 4.2. Jeremy, I have a video. Of course I do. I have a video where I went over that. I mean, I'm not going to just pawn you off on the video, but... No. Why can't I find my own video? There we go. So the new Crossfire LQ... Where's this close-up? What they've done is... Hello? 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 Any minute now. Where is it? There it is. No, that's RSSI. There's LQ. So the new Crossfire LQ is... This first number is the RF mode. Mode 0, 1, or 2. Mode 2 is 150 hertz. Mode 1 is 50 hertz. And mode 0 is, I think it's 4 hertz telemetry locked. So you should really never see mode 0, is my understanding. Because most people, it'll never go into that mode by default. So mode 2 is the fast, low latency mode. Mode 1 is the slower, normal latency mode. And then this is your LQ. So basically, when you see 1:70, that's when you're at risk of failsafe. That's my understanding. It used to go from 100 to 300. And like 200 to 300 was mode 2, I think. I'm not sure. I could never quite remember the exact breakdown. So now they're just showing you the RF mode and the LQ separately. Let's see. I've been ignoring the Discord. T. Simon in the Discord asks, I've had a few flight controllers fail after small to moderate crashes, like an inverted yaw spin to the ground. Yikes. Inverted yaw spin to the ground usually is not a small crash, but okay, I'll take your word for it. Is it likely that mounting the capacitor such that it bends over the top of the flight controller is the problem, or are flight controllers just delicate? I mean, I would not say, let's take a look at how he's mounting it. I would not say that like I don't like anything to touch the top plate. That's your problem right there. So my concern, I can see that that's touching the top plate. So then when you invert into the ground and your battery smashes the ground, you're literally smashing your flight controller. So I do think that's a problem because the top plate has a lot of flex. Don't ever squeeze anything between the top plate. Always have air, always have space. So your capacitor is the problem. Not because the capacitor is touching the flight controller, but because the capacitor is allowing the battery in the top plate to smash the flight controller. I wouldn't do that. That's what I would say. What range should I expect from Crossfire at 250 milliwatts? I mean, in open space, kilometers. 5-10 kilometers easy. You'll definitely outrun your video. Depending on, I mean, like if I'm in an office park and I fly to the other side of the office building, then I'm going to get some breakup. And I may fail safe. But 250 milliwatts with optimal antenna mounting, I mean, people have gone 10, 15 kilometers. I'm not sure exactly. On full power, on 2 watts, they've gone 40, 50, 60 kilometers. That's obviously a very, very special situation. So in a sense, that question doesn't make sense because like with an optimal setup, you can just go forever on 250 milliwatts. But most people aren't running an optimal setup. So the question is like, how crappy are your antennas? In general, I would always expect to outrun any 5 gigahertz video unless you're doing like really super high gain amplified stuff. But on 250 milliwatts Crossfire, I just would never expect a failsafe at all. Samuel Rivera is inviting people to my Discord. Samuel, the Discord is available to patrons, the patrons only. Everyone is welcome to join, but I know some YouTubers, they just have a free to enter Discord. Since I answer everybody's questions for free all the time anyway, I try to keep the Discord just for patrons, just so that they can feel special. They are super helpful, though. I do agree. Akira Lynx says, I'm trying to decide on a first quad. I want something I just run around my backyard. Any ideas? How about the Emax Tiny Hawk Freestyle Ready to Fly kit? The Emax Tiny Hawk Freestyle Ready to Fly kit. Tiny Hawk Freestyle is pretty good for outdoor flying, but not so powerful that it's going to get you in trouble. This is the bind and fly. They have a ready to fly, though. Here we go. There you go. This controller it's okay. It's the weakest part of the whole setup. It's under $200. It's got everything you need. You'll rip around your yard in that, no problem. Squishy7 says in the Discord, speaking of, oh, hang on. Squishy7 says in the Discord, Trappy made a comment last night in the TBS couch about if people are having issues with multiple Crossfire quads in the air, it's the first he's heard of it, which seems pretty out of touch. I was at Ready Made RC's FPV Fest last weekend. It was a huge problem. Edge of fail-safing about 100 yards out because there were just too many Crossfire things in the air. This was in regard to Ghost's claims, which of course he's going to dispute, but he still should recognize the issue. Yeah, yeah. Anybody, I've had people say, so Tony Cake came out and said that one of the benefits of Immersion RC Ghost is that Crossfire has this problem where if there are too many pilots in the air, you get micro fail-safes or even fail-safes. And some people I saw out there on the internet were like, they were accusing him of fear-mongering, that that's not accurate. And I feel like many people have never experienced this. But lots of people, that's because they don't fly at huge events with lots of pilots in the air. Every single person I know who is a race director, and I don't mean like, you know, you run a race for your multi-GP chapter. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Every single person I know who has ever run like a medium to large size race immediately said, yeah, no, that's real. Because they have all had to deal with, like, for example, TBS has a race mode where, like, you put it into race mode, it goes to 25 milliwatts and turns telemetry off, and the LED on the back of the module turns purple. I don't know exactly how it works, but there's a mode that you can put your TBS module in specifically to stop it from causing failsafe at races. So for people to go, this is a non-issue, this is just fear-mongering on the... Well, why is there a race mode to specifically fix this exact issue if it's a non-issue? It's obviously not a non-issue. So, 661 FPV makes a great point. You can't really get more than 4 pilots up in FPV anyway, so that should be fine. You're not wrong. On a typical casual fly-in, you're going to have 3 or 4 pilots in the air at a time, and if you try and do more than that, they'll all stomp on each other. And Crossfire in the United States can easily do 3 or 4 pilots at a time, and that is why so many people, in my opinion, have never experienced this issue and think that Tony is just making this up. But at races, they often are running 6 or 8 pilots at a time because they need to run as many as they can to get the heats over with and get the race over with. And when you try to get 6 or 8 pilots in the air at a time, and especially if you're in Europe, where you only have whatever, like 15, whatever the megahertz is, the width, you have a very narrow band is the point. You really do run into this issue. So, what does that mean? And if you're at an event like a Flight Fest event, where you've got people flying and then there's other people who are powered up somewhere and they're all just stomping on you and causing fail-safes. What does this mean? Well, it means that a whole lot of people are not going to see the value proposition in Ghost. If the value proposition is it solves this issue of not being able to have pilots in the air, because a whole lot of people haven't experienced this problem to begin with. But I guarantee you, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I could name 2 or 3 people who run races right now who said, oh my God, it would be so much easier to run races if everybody would just run this system, assuming it works like they say it's going to work. So it's not a non-issue. And then for Trappy to say it's the first he's heard of it, I didn't see it. I don't know how you spin that statement to make it true. But obviously he's aware that this is an issue because they developed a special mode, a race mode, specifically to fix this issue. So, Jeremy Sarge says, how do they get that many pilots up without video issues? Jeremy, the way they do it is they'll have channels 1, 2, 4, and 6 will be left-hand polarized antennas. No, sorry, 2, 4, 6, and 8. I can count. And 1, 3, 5, and 7 will be right-hand polarized antennas. And by mixing the polarizations like that, you can get the pilots in the air. Everybody is at 25 milliwatts. Nobody is at 200 milliwatts. When you have all the pilots at 25 milliwatts and you alternate left-hand, right-hand polarization, you can get 8 pilots in the air, no problem. Am I going to the Ken Heron birthday FPV Fest? Do you mean the Mind Field event, Phantom? Ken Heron. No, that's not what I want. Not Squarespace. Let's see if I can make this work. My link is screwed up. Maybe this is it. Do you mean this event? Am I going to this event? This is an event that is being held by Ken Heron August 22nd on Ken Heron's birthday. I am not going to that. Ken invited me to that. And I told him I would like to go, but it's possible I'll have a conflict. And it turns out I do have a conflict. This trip that I am going on, wait, August 22nd, yeah. This trip that I'm going on will conflict with this event. So unfortunately, I won't be able to make it. So it does look pretty awesome, though, doesn't it? How would you like to fly FPV through this thing? I believe it's free. By the way, if you're in the area, if you're within a drive of Brownsville, Tennessee 38012, check this out. You'll be able to fly FPV through this awesome sculpture. Yeah, it looks insane. Blizzard FPV, thanks for $1.23 Canadian. In Maniac 1989, thanks for $5 Australian dollars. Can you please list your current top 3 freestyle 5-inch frames? No. I'm still trying to find one that I love. You can definitely check out my website. My website, which has the ultimate FPV shopping list. Let's take a look here. And let's look at quadcopter frames. Now, these are not my top 3. I'm not trying to say these are like the top 3. But I try to find good quality stuff at every price point. So on the cheapest possible, we got the Rotorite CL1, the TBS Source 1, and the Xylo Freakstyle. 3 very good frames at very low price point. Top of the line, I gotta say, the X-Hover Stingy V2, that thing was a freaking tank. Eventually, I did crack the bottom plate. That thing was a freaking tank. I was so impressed with this frame. It's probably one of the toughest frames I've ever flown. No kidding. And I'm working on a hyperlight build right now, so I'm looking forward to getting to fly that. But I'm not sure I could pick a top 3. Let's see here. Squishy7 says, the big problem with Crossfire at these large events is that fixed wings are in the air flying line of sight. So you don't just have 4 or 8 pilots in the air. You have 25 or 50, and Crossfire really chokes. Yeah. DU4 FPV says he's loving the KISS Apex, but he won't admit it. I mean, the Apex is a gorgeous frame. You can't deny that. You can't deny that. I just like to be different. Burritos Yum Yum, best username. Burritos Yum Yums, thank you for $5. If you can go back in time and change one thing to shape the hobby to be more to your liking, what would you change? Change one thing to shape the hobby to be more to your liking. What would you change? Oh, that's tough. Huh. I mean, the current existential threat to the hobby is remote ID. So what do you got? But the problem is that is a culmination of a whole lot of different aspects of different things, different facets, components. And so to just say I would get rid of remote ID, I feel like it would just come back again. The thing that I would change would be to make FPV more easily accessible to more people. I think there's this huge barrier to entry, a learning curve in terms of being able to build, configure, repair, and fly quads. Now, I think to a certain degree, quads will not be easier to fly without taking a lot of the fun out of it. I mean, you could put training wheels on them, but then they're not going to be racing drones anymore. But if you could make them easier to build, easier to set up, and easier to repair, more people could be in the hobby and enjoying it. And that could only, I think, be good. Some people would go the other way and would say, I wish the hobby was still small and underground. I don't feel that way. I feel like as the hobby has grown, we've gotten a lot of really great stuff, great products that wouldn't have existed if it was still a tiny, tiny hobby, a niche. It's still pretty tiny, but I wish there were good quads that you could get and just sort of snap together and have them be at a decent price, drop in replacement parts without requiring you to like go into computer and be a freaking computer whiz to set it up. And those have existed, but they have never really taken off. Maybe that means that it never would have happened. That even if the fact that those quads have existed and nobody bought them, well, not nobody, but maybe means that the hobby just is inherently limited in how many people are going to get into it. But I would love to see as many people flying FPV as fly DJI Phantoms. And I think we'd have a better chance at fighting the FAA if that were the case. But I don't know. That's one thing. DJI Phantom. You don't want to dumb it down. If you're not smart enough to figure it out, you're not the person for this hobby. John Rosner. Is that true? I mean, there was a time when people said, I'm not making this up. There was a time when people said, if you can't develop your own film, then you don't deserve to be a photographer. And they said, digital cameras ruin photography. These digital photographers, they don't know jack shit about a dark room. And all they do is they just hold down the trigger and they just go bap, 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 bap. They don't know how to compose a shot or set up a shot. Well, has photography been ruined? It hasn't. Nobody knows how to use a darkroom anymore. Technology moved on. I think that you seldom make a hobby worse by lowering the barrier to entry. Base jumping. Probably good that there's a barrier to entry in base jumping. And that analogy is not completely off base. Base, pun not intended. I mean, racing drones are dangerous. They're powerful, dangerous machines. And dumbasses crash their DJI Mavics all the time. So there's some barrier to entry is good, but I don't think you need the barrier to entry to force people to be safe. I would like that to be true. I mean, if you look at firearms in the U.S., that's not a very compelling argument. Because nearly anybody can buy a firearm, and no one is forced to take safety classes in most states. And a whole lot of people are responsible, and a whole lot of people are irresponsible and hurt themselves. And that would probably be true with drones, too. Yeah. But as long as the barrier to entry is super high, you're always going to be this tiny, tiny niche. And as soon as a threat like the FAA comes along, you're going to get steamrolled. That's the problem. If you're small, you can't defend yourself against anything. And if you're large, you have a chance. That's how it seems to me. If you're small enough, nobody knows you exist, and then you're fine. So there's two ways you could take this. Number one, the hobby should have stayed tiny to the point where nobody knew it existed. I don't think any of us, none of you guys, I shouldn't say none. Most of the people watching this live stream would not even be here, would not know FPV existed if it was the same size and exposure that it was in 2016. When it was completely below the radar, you wouldn't be flying FPV. So if you're one of the people who says, you know what, it's gotten too big and too popular and there's too many idiots messing it up for the rest of us, you probably are one of the people who came along after it already was ruined. I'm not saying you ruined it. I'm saying somebody else ruined it, made it too big, too many idiots, and as a result of that, you found out about it too, and you're a perfectly responsible person. So once you're big enough that anybody notices you exist, you need to get as big as possible as soon as possible, because you won't survive the existential threat that eventually occurs. That's what I would say. Philip So says, with the military developing lethal drones, wouldn't that cast a dangerous shadow for the hobby, especially in the public perspective? I mean, I don't think anybody is confusing an FPV racing drone with like a Predator. Like, those are just two different things. But I do think that, I mean, I have heard from people who seem to know what they're talking about that one of the motivations for Remote ID is not the commercial drone alliance, but Department of DHS, who is concerned about the weaponization of, you know, somebody puts a freaking bomb on a Phantom. I don't know. that DHS is losing their freaking mind about the potential. So I think that there is concern about that, but I don't think that is driven by the military use of drones like the Phantom, because nobody's going to confuse a Phantom for a racing drone. But there is a potential for weaponizing racing drones. It's there. And I mean, if you don't think it's there, then congratulations, you're not a terrorist. I think that people are concerned about that. (9:56 p.m.) We're coming up on the end of the stream. Good little discussion there at the end of the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Nice, very, very thought-provoking question, to be honest. Let me get a couple more super chats out of the way before we finish up. BeepTube, thank you for $10 in the super chat. I've been really enjoying the Tyro 119. I'm getting 7 to 10 minute long mid-range cruises. Thanks for doing that series. Thank you so much. Sidnesh Raut, thank you for $5 in the super chat. I built an Eachine Tyro 119 and it's a blast. What should I do for my next quad? Pick my own parts? KISS flight controller pre-build? I mean, I would suggest you keep building your own. Don't get a pre-build. If you like to build and you know how to build your own. Unless you're like me and you have a trip coming up and you're like, screw it, I'm just swiping the credit card. Okay. The Eachine Tyro 119 is a 6-inch. It's not particularly high quality parts. So, like, build a beautiful 5-inch racing or freestyle drone. I definitely do think you would benefit from copying somebody else's build. Find somebody else's build, like on rotobuilds.com, and copy it. Monkey Shine FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chat. I bought a new DJI system, JB-F7 with 4-in-1 ESC, Apex HD frame with Mr. Steel motors. What other frames would you recommend for DJI? I mean, the Apex HD is a very good one. I like Drew Camden's, Ladrib's, Skyliner HD is another good one. The Rotor Riot HD1 is a cheap one. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that the TBS Source 1 has to have a high-def version, right? Those are some suggestions. And, of course, you can check out my website, fpvknowitall.com, which has some recommendations. Nico Espana, thank you for 10,000 CLP. Imagine you live in Chile. Those are Chilean pesos. The only way to get good goggles is by overseas. Your budget's limited, but you could do a great effort and buy the HDO2 or the EV300O. What would you do? I haven't seen the EV300O yet, Nico Espana, but everybody who is reviewing it seems to be saying good things about it. The EV300O, if you haven't, I mean, if the HDO2 is a great effort, but the EV300O is like a little more manageable, it is looking like a good goggle, but I haven't seen it yet, so I couldn't say for sure. Thank you for your donation. Save that money and chip in for goggles. The big concern with the EV300O might be the latency, but nobody is reporting that. Everybody's reporting it has good latency. Almost up on the end of the stream. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming at 10 p.m. Aaron, start posting that link if you would. I'm just going to finish my super chats, which I've let get way behind. Bit Vasconcelos, thank you for $20. Big super chat. I have a 5-inch, 660 gram, with a 1300 milliamp hour pack, and Johnny 2207 2400 kV seems underpowered. 658 grams is not that heavy, so if those Johnny 2207 seem underpowered, I think it's probably your props. What props are you using? Are you using the Johnny props? The Johnny props are super underpowered. They're made for smoothness. I'm considering your motors, 2406, 2500 kV, and some others. Can you give me a rec? So, Bit, as much as I hate to tell you not to buy my motor, the Johnny motor is a good motor. I would try different props before I bought different motors, because you're going to get a more powerful motor, but it's also going to weigh more. So I'm not saying those two things will cancel out, but try higher pitch props like a Gemfan Hurricane 51477 or even a 51499, and I bet you'll find that you get what you're looking for. BK, thanks for 55 Norwegian kroner. Starting to hate the FreeSky receivers with a passion. Time for a rebuild to DJI with Crossfire. Is the new JBF7 flight controller okay with a 45 amp ESC on the Sedora SL5E? The JBF7 should be compatible with all iFlight ESCs, but don't assume and risk frying something. Double check the pinout just to be sure, but I think it is. Brett Nicholson, thanks for $5. King of Losing. Zing 2207, 1800 kV, about 750 grams. Stingy V2, prop recommendations. 750 grams, that's getting up there. I probably would pick, it's a 2207. I probably would try the GemFan Hurricane 51466 or maybe a HQ 5143-ish. That's probably where I would go with that. It really depends on whether you're looking for a smooth freestyle prop or a higher pitched, more punchy prop. Okay, we're caught up. Ciati FPV is going to start streaming. Ciati, sorry for running a little long there, buddy. Post that link again to your live stream, my friend. Ciati is doing a giveaway, fleet maintenance, vacation prep. Ciati's going on vacation? License to Drive says Albert Kim uploaded a review of the ESC EV300O about an hour ago. I know, I was supposed to get the EV300O for review, and then I said to my contact at who was supposed to be sending him to me, I was like, hey, I see other people are reviewing this. And he was like, oh yeah, let me check. Oh, they didn't ship it. So I don't have it. Hopefully it'll come soon. Until then, I won't review it. Thank you, Matt Wheat, for $5. Thank you, Zach Cagely for $5. That's going to do it, guys. You guys have a good night. No live stream next weekend. No live stream the weekend after that. Head on over to Ciati's live stream and give him some super chats, okay?